Hello, kindergarten boot campers. Mrs. Klaus here. Today we are going to learn about the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, if you have your folder, you will have a page that looks like this. It has a flag on one side and the Pledge of Allegiance on the other. And if you didn't pick up a folder at Northland Library, you can still download all of the activity sheets on our website. Let's talk about flags for a minute. Every country around the world has its own flag. Get up the globe here. So this globe is a way to pretend that we're looking at the whole world and all the countries on it. Now, if you were an astronaut looking down at Earth, you wouldn't see all these different countries looking like different colors. All you'd see is a beautiful ocean and all these different land masses, these continents. But people have organized themselves into countries, and our country, where Northland Library is and where I'm speaking to you from, oops, there's a lot of reflection, is the United States of America, right here. And up above us, our neighbor to the north, is Canada, and it has a flag that looks like this. It's a big maple leaf because they have a lot of maple trees, and they just thought it would make a splendid symbol for their whole country. Then our neighbor down to the south is Mexico. And their flag looks like this. But the flag of the United States of America, where we are, we put the globe back, you probably recognize because you see it a lot of places. And it looks like this. There are 50 stars, one for each state in the United States, and that's what it means. All the states together make up the US. And there are, we should count them, stripes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 stripes of white and red. And every morning, if you're in public school, and a lot of private schools and parochial schools, you'll stand at attention and put your hand over your heart and say the Pledge of Allegiance. And what the Pledge of Allegiance means is that you promise to be a good citizen and follow the words. And it's, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, a lot of times in preschool, you will have something called circle time. Sometimes it's class together time or another name. But it's usually the first thing you do in the morning after the Pledge of Allegiance. And you take a look at the calendar and days of the week. So today is Monday, and the date, that's the day of the month. So this month that we're in right now is August, and it's August 10. So we'll put up a 1 and a 0. And what's the weather like? Well, today when I came in, it was partly cloudy, so the sun was peeking out, but sometimes there were clouds over. Last night we had a storm, but today is pretty nice. And right now, the summer is the season. So now we know the day of the week, Monday, and the date and the month, what the weather's like, and what season it is. And sometimes in school, you might be the helper that gets to do those things. Maybe it's just you doing all of them. Maybe it's you and your friends, each taking a part. Citizenship isn't just for countries. Citizenship is also for the classroom. And good citizenship means thinking about others and treating them well. So things like sharing toys at recess, making sure that everyone is included in a game is good citizenship. Taking turns, if you have to take turns with the water fountain or equipment in the classroom. Good citizenship in the classroom also means if you have a question, that you raise your hand to get the teacher's attention and don't just speak out. Because everyone has to sort of be quiet so that everyone can hear the teacher and learn. When you're in the hallway, good citizenship means walking in line quietly and not fussing with other people. It means using your inside voice and saving your outside voice for recess when you're outside in the playground. Citizenship is making sure that if you have to cough or sneeze, you don't cough or sneeze on anybody else. You cough or sneeze into your elbow like that, so that the germs don't go all around. And it could be that when you go to school this year, you may have to wear a mask over your ears. I have to put mine underneath my glasses so it doesn't fog up, to help keep from spreading germs. The grown-ups have to do it too. Good classroom citizenship also means working together. And I have a story about working together called the enormous turnip. A turnip is a vegetable that looks like this. And the seeds from turnips are very tiny. Let me show you one. If I can get the package open. I like turnips. They're very sweet and delicious when you boil them up. Oh my goodness, this is so tiny. I don't know if you can even see it. You see that little dot right there? That is a turnip seed. And once upon a time, a farmer, an old man who was a farmer, took that tiny little turnip seed and he made a hole in the ground and he put the seed in it and he covered it up. And he watered it, and he went away. And every day he came out and watered it, and pulled the weeds. And the sun shone, and the rain fell. And eventually, he could tell that it was time to harvest that turnip. It was time to pull it up so they could eat it. And so the old man went, and he grabbed the leaves, and he pulled, and he pulled. But he couldn't pull the turnip up. It was too big. So he called into the house and he said, old woman, come help me. I can't pull out the turnip. It's too big. And so the old woman came and she grabbed onto the old man's coattails and he grabbed onto the turnip leaves and he pulled and he pulled. But they could not pull the turnip up. It was too big. And the old woman said, I will call the boy. Boy, come help us pull the turnip up. So the boy came and he hung on to the old woman's apron strings and she held on to the old man's coattails and they pulled and they pulled, but they could not pull that turnip up. It was so big. Well, the boy said, I will call my sister. She's pretty strong. And so the boy called the sister over, and she hung on to the boy's shirt, and the boy hung on to the old woman's apron strings, and the old woman held on to the old man's coattails, and he held on to the turnip top, and he pulled, and he pulled, and they couldn't pull it up. It was too big. Well, the girl thought, maybe the dog can help. And so she called the dog over, and the dog held on to her shirt, and she held on to her brother's shirt, and the brother held on to the old woman's apron strings, and the old woman held on to the old man's coattails, and they pulled, and they pulled, and they pulled. But they couldn't pull it up. It was just too big. Well, the dog ran and fetched the cat, and as much as they usually fought and chased each other around the yard, the cat knew that she needed to help. And so she took a hold of the dog's tail, and the dog took a hold of the little girl's shirt, and the little girl took a hold of the little boy's shirt, and he held on to the old woman's apron strings, and she held on to the old man's coattails, and the old man hung on to the turnip, and they pulled, and they pulled, and they pulled. But they couldn't get it up. It was too big. And that made them all sad, because they had been looking forward to a good turnip dinner. Just then, a little mouse peeked out of a mouse hole under the house, and she saw the trouble they were in. And the little mouse said, maybe I can help. Let's give it one more try. And so the little mouse held on to the cat's tail. The cat held on to the dog's tail. The dog held on to the little girl's shirt. The little girl held on to her brother's shirt. The little boy held on to the old woman's apron strings. The old woman held on to the old man's coattail. The old man held on to that turnip, and they pulled, and they pulled, and pop! Out of the ground came the most enormous turnip they had ever seen. It was so big, it wouldn't even fit in the wheelbarrow. So they had to roll that turnip all the way from the field to the back door. And they pushed that turnip in the door. And they cooked it up. And that night, the old man, the old woman, the boy, the girl, the dog, the cat, and the mouse sat down to the most delicious turnip dinner anyone has ever had. The end. And that's a good story about working together. Sometimes it is the tiniest person that makes the difference. Now, one thing about kindergarten, school in general, is that you're not going to learn everything all at once. And sometimes you will learn things and they'll come very quickly to you. And sometimes you're going to have to really work hard to understand. And it's always a good idea to ask questions. And that's what teachers are there for. They are there to answer questions. So today we talked about the Pledge of Allegiance, and we talked about being a good citizen in the classroom. Like remembering to raise your hand if you need to ask a question, and remembering to cough or sneeze into your elbow so you don't spread germs, and to take turns, and to use your inside voice, unless you're on the playground, and to walk in a quiet line in the hallway, and to help each other and be helpful to other students in the classroom. That's a good thing to practice. And while you're thinking about the pledge and memorizing it, you might want to color your flag. Stars are white. The field behind the stars is blue. And remember that the 13 stripes are red and white. And let's take a look at this. The top one is red and the bottom one is red. So when you get your crayons out, you do a red stripe, then a white stripe, then a red stripe, and a white stripe, and a red stripe, and a white stripe. That's called alternating. You're just going back and forth between red and white until you get them all, okay? And all the 50 stars for all the 50 states. And in case we haven't mentioned it before, and I don't think we did, the state that I'm in right now, and that you might be watching from, is Pennsylvania, meaning Penn's woods, because we have a lot of trees and a lot of woods and a lot of forests. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed today's boot camp. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.